Well, hello everyone, and welcome to Hogarth's Global Astrology. Know your planets, know yourself. I just wanted to have a quick chat today about Trump, about CPAC, and about Greg Abbott, um, who is one of the other governors for Texas. Yeah. And in fact, let's just start there with some of this madness that's going on. So as we have seen, I think it was yesterday, he announced that he is effectively ending lockdown, banning the mask mandate or the mask situation in Texas. Let me just have a little slurp of my iced coffee here. Mm. Bummer. I had a feeling that would happen. I'll just put that back afterwards. It was just on the page of Trump's chart. Um, it's do you know what? These are such strange times, aren't they? These are such strange times. Now, while I'm not a fan of endless lockdowns and totalitarian control, etc., etc., and all that kind of stuff, all of those negatives that can come when Saturn is very powerful, like it is now, because Saturn is in sidereal Capricorn. In fact, actually, it's quite useful actually that this has fallen down at this point. So sidereal Capricorn is here by transit. Saturn is here in his own signs, as I said before, and he gets his own signs back to back. So with sidereal Aquarius, and on current trajectory, Saturn is going to be powerful in his own signs for about the next 4 years until he transitions through his own signs up into Pisces. Now, it's kind of now the negative energies of Saturn can be used in ways to kind of like restrict, particularly in the sense of how governments can restrict with draconian rules, lockdown, all of that kind of stuff, which we've seen is absolutely true. But what has also been proven as well is that not all restriction and etc. is bad for us. Sometimes it is necessary. So when there is a pandemic, so if we think back into the days of plague or the Spanish flu, etc., and stuff like that, kind of isolation and removing oneself from the disease or what have you is a classic form of survival. It just, of course, depends whether or not if that is abused or not, and no one wants that kind of abused. We don't want to be in a situation like I can say in a certain country, which shall remain nameless at this stage, but where basically there is near totalitarian monitoring with money system, even a credits points, social credit points based system based on your literal behavior affecting your ability to even fly on a plane or get insurance and stuff like that. I'm sure you guys can work that out. I don't want to be too controversial talking about certain countries, but you can work out who I mean. No one wants that, yeah, in their right mind anyway, because that's too much control. But likewise, you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater. Do you know what I mean? So Texas, which has just come out of one of the worst winter storms possible in its history, which is still reeling from that. I'm not quite sure what things are like on the ground now, but there's still issues from what I'm aware with water and just basic amenities for survival. So now Greg Abbott, announces from his little plinth or whatnot that that's it. Throw caution to the wind. Gonna end completely. He. It's not just that it's not like he said, okay, I want all businesses to open up safely. Yeah, to open up safely. Come on, let's get going. Blah blah blah, which is of course is a valid argument. But to say it's to completely lift everything and stop the mask wearing mandate across the whole of Texas and say that every single business can open up, including nightclubs and whatnot, is just wanton irresponsibility. Yeah, because the numbers aren't really low enough yet. And the reason why the numbers are going down is precisely because there is a mask mandate and whatever. So now they're saying there could be a fourth surge. And so really, what is going on? What is going on? So again, we need to talk about the GOP, you know, the grand old prostitute party, yeah, as described, because apparently some guy protested, someone very powerful in the GOP or whatnot, apparently protested outside of Greg's home where he lives. And all of a sudden we see this whole sweeping thing just being taken off Texas. Now, if Texas were an island to itself, as it sees itself kind of in terms of its geopolitics, but it is not. People move around. So if people in Texas are no longer following the mask mandate and whatever, and their numbers then suddenly to begin to spike in a big way, which we'll find out, you know, 2 to 3 weeks from now, those Texans are going to go visit friends, family, get on planes, etc., etc. And what do we have? We then have a fourth surge. Can that really be afforded economically for America? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just common sense. So really, GOP is, you know, they really should be not only considered as a cult, but really as a death cult. Because this will cost lives. It will cost lives. Yes, there is the counter argument too, that being locked up too much and all that kind of stuff and the economic fallout can cost lives as well. Yes, it can. But he didn't say, let's open the economy, but keep wearing our masks, you know. At least that will give a fig leaf of decency to it all. He just said, no, that's it. Back to normal, blah, blah, blah. You know, as if the vaccination program were absolutely at its peak and like a good 50% of the population was immunized. No, it's not the case. I think for like Texas, it's like 13% and loose change or something like that. And it's, you know, I think it was like the 6th lowest, or, you know, sort of like in that lower 10 bracket of successfulness in terms of vaccinations. So we see again and again how, going back to, you know, the prostitute archetype, which is an amazing archetype, but we can see how undermining it is when it's working in the shadow, because what it does is it undermines moral value, yeah? And it can also undermine common sense, it can undermine science, it undermines so many things. When we're in the shadow of the prostitute, everything potentially of value can be undermined. And it just has this pervasive quality that is just never ending, yeah? Because the cost for this is too high, yeah? Yes, okay, economically, you know, it's not great, but what's the alternative? You know, if the virus is not defeated, then the long-term economic health of America is compromised. Texas is a huge state. It's got a lot of people in it. And how are the other states supposed to respond? What are they going to do? Right, we're going to impose sanctions on Texas and close our borders, you know. Not going to happen really, is it? Because then we really start, I mean, or if it did, you know, then we really would be starting to enter, you know, quite a dark place. Let me just have another slurp. So what Greg Abbott is doing is essentially undermining the integrity of everyone else's measures that they've put forward to control the virus. It's just a massive act of sabotage and short-sightedness. And it's just, I just wonder how much longer can this be tolerated for? You know, it may even come a time where certain states may even start getting sanctioned, you know, by other states for recklessness. Because really, how long does everyone want this coronavirus to keep perpetuating itself and going on? Surely it's better just to take that little bit longer to open up safely and then have a longer term growth, rather than acting hastily or out of self-interest in the short term and then ending up with these longer term stuttering lockdowns, which will actually affect the economy more. And it's just remarkable to be seeing this happen, this state, this level of irresponsibility that is happening. But let's talk a little bit about Trump and CPAC. Now, CPAC is just, oh my goodness. Do you know what I mean? This really is sort of like, in terms of prostitute archetype, we really are in Whore of Babylon territory here. I mean, big time, with tambourines and fireworks and Catherine wheels. Yeah, it's just, it's just crazy. Now, I watched some of the highlights of some of the people that spoke at CPAC. I could not put myself through watching a full dose of this kind of display. Yes, you know, for me that would be like pouring poison into my own psyche. You know, you know, that's me kind of in a way putting my kind of spiritual face mask on, and to limit my exposure to such lunacy. But anyway, as we saw, Duc Larange stood up there and made his speech or whatnot, and you know, it was full of the usual rantings and the big lie that he likes to perpetrate and stuff like this. But you know what? Trump is such a vexed question, because as many of you will have seen, you know, many of you, including myself, will be looking at other astrological sites, be looking at tarot readers as well, and what they're saying, and what other astrologers are saying as well. And it's kind of like a lot of people are seeing Trump's downfall, and I can see that on one front, because of course I've mentioned this myself when we looked at Trump's 6th house. Do you remember, like Trump's 6th house with all those planets in it? Like I said, that just foretells a whole world of pain in terms of litigation and stuff like that. But Trump is one of these weird characters in history, and for some reason the universe, the planets, you know, seem to always keep giving him a bit of a lift, much to our chagrin, and I'll explain why. Let me just do a little roll up here. There's Trump's, yeah, there's Duc Larange's chart. Let me just put this back up here. Add that little bit of extra stickiness. There we go, to keep it in place. So, we know this chart well, Duc Larange. Now, I want you to have a little moment of imagination. This is so frustrating. I should have put his chart on the top. I think it's just a little bit too heavy. Sorry guys. It's just, hopefully that will do it. It's because of the weight. I've done so many of these charts now. Hopefully that's going to stay in place. If it drops down again, whatever, such is life. This is what happens on a live broadcast. So, Trump's chart, Duc Larange, yeah? So as we see here, the usual culprits, 1st house, Mars in the 1st house. This is where he gets all of that bombastic energy from. I would say if there's one planet that just consistently gets Trump out of scrapes, or at least gives him that stamina, it's Mars. Yeah, Mars in the first house, I would have to say overall is a blessing. It's a place of natural strength for the Mars, because Mars rules the first sign, Aries, yeah, of the zodiac. And the first house is the self, I, yeah, and it also represents the mind. And it's not only that Mars is in his first house, it's in the sign of Leo, which belongs to his friend, the king. So this is the Mars, this is the king and the general having that relationship. So he'll always have that energy, as it were, to keep fighting, yeah, because Mars is our ability to fight, you know, in a passionate way, even though we know that Trump really has never been on the battlefield in his life. In terms of his emotions, though, and his psychology and his personality, he's always prepared to fight, as we have seen, and used his words to very powerful effect. So there's that element. But what's going on now? Looking at Trump's chart, like I said, with all those planets at one point, 7 planets in his 6th house of enemies, yeah? And I said, I think it was on Diane's Tarot, that Trump is about to become one of the most litigated men in history, yeah? And that he could, in effect, be litigated to death, almost. However, it's not there yet, and he's very, very canny. He's had so many court battles that, you know, Trump's pretty much had more, you know, has had more court battles than what we would say hot dinners. But let's just say, you know, call girls who spin on poles. Yeah, let's put it that way. He has, probably quite literally, his whole career has been spent fighting some kind of court action or battle or whatnot there, whatever. And I hope that what I said before didn't seem too flippant or whatever. But I mean, but it is true. You know, it is true. We know that Trump likes, you know, strippers and porn stars and stuff like that, but he has been in court more, or in a court situation more often than he's been in that situation. That's something I could pretty much guarantee, because he's been in court since the beginning. So that can have two effects. It could make him underestimate maybe the challenges that are facing him, you know, when we were looking at his 6th house with all these planets there. But also as well, it's like that aspect of practice makes perfect, yeah? It's very familiar to him at the same time, and he's been very good at manipulating the law. And part of the way that he's got round stuff was that eventually, after all these years, his tax returns, of course, have shown up. And what does he do? He gives over a million pages of reports. I mean, oh my goodness, this guy. So what does that do? Can the court get through all of that number of pages before a certain cut-off dates and stuff like that? I don't know how many. They're going to literally have thousands of lawyers working on this to get through that level of stuff, yeah? It's mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. But it's so obvious as well that it is a delaying tactic, because as we know, the law tends to move quite slowly. And Trump knows this. And he is treading water and doing his best to delay and throw obstacles in the way of justice, yeah, as he knows best to do. Now, will he be able to do this forever? Of course not. Will he end up in jail, like many other people have said on this? Unlikely. It's a lot of it is to do with timing. A lot of it is to do with precedent, because he was the president, even though he absolutely abused his power, and many other factors. But one of the things, and it is a little bit frustrating, but everything happens for a reason. Jupiter is here right now in Trump's charts. Jupiter is in, so I just want you to just use your imagination here. In fact, I might actually let's just quickly draw Jupiter in. I'll draw Jupiter small, so there, and faint. So you may not be able to see it, but anyway, That's Jupiter by transit. Now what happens is, now this is not present in Western astrology, but in Vedic astrology, we all know aspects, you know, planets are looking at each other, but in Vedic astrology it's called drishti. And drishti means planetary sight, and in Vedic astrology it's fixed, yeah? And my clients know this because I go through it with every single session consultation that I do when I'm talking about the planets. All planets look straight ahead, yeah? But certain other planets, so Jupiter, the nodes of the moon, Mars and Saturn, all are what I call triclops. They look in 3 places at once. And Jupiter and the nodes of the moon look 5 places, 7 places, and 9 places from themselves. That's what we call in Western astrology the trine. And what we need to talk about is Rahu as well with Mars, because coming up at the end of March, Mars and Rahu are going to meet in sidereal Taurus, yeah, and that's Trump's 10th house. Trump is basically having a nodal return right now, yeah, which means what a nodal return is, it regalvanizes a person within and realigns them with their purpose. Yeah. So there's that factor, and that becomes exact in March. Yeah, around about the 28th of March. In fact, let me just check my software and just look at today's transits. Let's have a little look. Yeah, if we look here, let me just go here. Let me just go to main screen, and I'm just going to look at the transits for today. Yes. So at the moment, Mars is at 4 degrees 57 minutes of Taurus in the nakshatra of Kritika. And I think the two of them are going to meet by the end of March around about 6, what is it? I think it's around about 19 degrees or something like that. I think it's 19 degrees. And this is very, very significant. So that is happening right very close to Donald Trump's natal Uranus, which is the planet of shocks and surprises and the maverick, yeah? So there could be some kind of unexpected boost in some way in regards to Trump, maybe in terms of media, because planet Uranus is also connected with electronics and social media and stuff like that. Who knows? You know, he might even be releasing it. He might even release his own app. That wouldn't surprise me, yeah? In fact, the more I think of it, I think it could be something like that. Now, I could be wrong. Of course, I could be wrong. But Rahu as a force, as a nose of the moon, Rahu represents eccentrics, but also represents innovation, yeah, particularly with technology. Mars represents passion and anger and violence, yeah, as we know, like with the insurrection and stuff like that, but also represents strategy as well, strategy and innovation as well. So Mars coming together, which is passion and bombastic, is also coming together with a very explosive and expansive energy of Rahu in his 10th house, going over his sun, which is the vitality. So on one level, you could say Rahu could potentially eclipse that sun, but it could also boost it as well. And then, you know, it's already gone over itself, but then coming close, so close, because actually, let's have a look now. Yeah, Rahu has just crossed over the Uranus of Donald Trump. So maybe a lot of that, the most choppiest things that could have happened to him, like the court cases, the insurrection, that was all happening like a few weeks ago. So you never know, Trump, because it's the 10th house of career and public dharma, Trump may announce something. It could be something to do with social media, or it could literally just be like his own platform and app, yeah, that his most rabid fans can download, and then he gives them some news or something like that. I mean, think of how many apps there are in the world. It's not beyond all comprehension that he may come up with something like that, and then his fans download it, and then he's got the mind control all back to him all over again. Will it be the same numbers as 80 million like his followers on Twitter? You know, probably not, but I bet you any money, I bet you good money, if Trump did release some kind of app or something electronic or innovative or quirky that way, there are still millions that would download that app. And as I know that's an unfortunate truth, but it's just true. We have to deal with reality here. So there could be something like that. But you know what? I could be wrong. But often we just look at the combinations of things in certain houses and kind of try and predict the most likely outcome. So Trump, basically until the guy is behind bars, but even then, I would say, such is his cult of personality, if Trump even so much has a mobile phone that he can reach, even when, so I shouldn't be laughing, even if and when this guy ends up behind bars, yeah, he would still have something, because such is the combination. And the thing is, why is this happening? And I've been really pondering and reflecting this, you know, because even when he spoke at the CPAC thing, they said he only got 55% approval rating from the audience. So people were like, yeah, you know, laughing, but privately voting down, yeah. So it shows, you know, even amongst that warm and friendly crowd to him, there might be some misgivings. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is a very niche part of the Republican Party. And of course, all Republicans can't be condemned as viewing to be supporting Trump either. There are many Republicans that don't support him, yeah? But the point is, he's an energy, yeah? He's still a force in the world. Obviously, taking the Twitter platform away, that was probably one of the most mortal blows for him in terms of getting his rhetoric out there. So to me, it just makes logical sense that if he were to have his own platform in some form that he could control every nuance of, yeah, the logical thing, and I'm not saying I want it to happen, but the logical thing would be for him to have his own little platform. And if it was an app, then he could just pretty much do what he wants, because it would be a private, he will no longer be, he's no longer, of course, the former, the president. He could do that as a private citizen. I don't want to give the guy tips, but if that kind of thing were to come up, it wouldn't shock me. So let's just see what happens, yeah? It also means that there could be a bit of more cra in the world, because Rahu with Mars is a very intense, bombastic and explosive energy, yeah? But Taurus is also a sign of peace, a sign of food and sustenance. So it could mean explosive matters around food and security and money. Yeah, this has got a lot to do with money. Keep an eye on the market. Let's see what happens there. Will they keep going up, or is this the point where the bubble bursts? Yeah, because everything is artificially inflated. But this could also mean as well that we start becoming really passionate about our security, about our food, about our resources, and doing something about it. Yeah, so this can show as well maybe some kind of innovation in terms in regards to security and how we feel about that. So these are interesting times. These are very, very interesting times to be alive. There are no guarantees. What I would say is, if all of this is feeling a bit intense, and if you're thinking, oh my goodness, will we ever be rid of Trump? I can completely understand why you would feel that way. But also as well, we have to try and take the helicopter view and really think, what is all this about? And what Trump really is doing is, he is just revealing the depths of the depravity. Yeah, that's really what's being shown up. And there's going to be more to come up. And what he's doing is, in a way, Trump is like a black mirror. Yeah, he's like a dark mirror that reflects an element not only of America, but what's within the human psyche in terms of when greed and avarice and self-interest and selfishness get out of control. He's a warning. And some say, and I think quite rightly, they say the dark ultimately always serves the light, in the sense of, as the dark emerges, as we see more and more sordid and seedy things come out, this is going to actually make people want to go towards the light even more. So let's talk about those things, the antidotes. This is about reflection. This is about coming to terms and integrating our own shadow. This is so important. This is one of the most important times in the history of Earth to actually do one shadow work, which means being able to look into the mirror and face the darkness of yourself and integrate that and understand that it's a part of your personality, so that it's not projected outwards onto others. And trust me, when one is able to do that, that is one of the most powerful things that you can do as a human being. And it is immensely liberating, because it means that one ultimately takes responsibility for oneself, but it also means one is able to see evil in the world for what it is. It's impossible, and I say impossible, when your shadow is integrated, it is impossible for others to pull the wool over your eyes, or it's certainly not for great lengths of time. Because when your shadow is integrated, you can then see the shadow in others and go, aha, I recognize that element. Many people cannot recognize often darkness in the world because their own shadow is not integrated and it's projected outwards. They think bad stuff is just happening, out there, and they've got nothing to do with it, and they're above it all. This is not true. We all have shadow. Just as there is day, there is also night. When we walk out in the street on a sunny day, what do we see? We see our shadow. Yes, so we all have one. But does it mean it's integrated? No, most of the time it's not integrated. This is why we have certain things that happen with the insurrection and all those kind of cras that have been going on, because it's been projected outwards. Now, does that mean go out and do dark deeds? No, of course not. In fact, what actually happens is the opposite. When our shadow is integrated, but that part of ourself moves out of our subconscious and becomes conscious and starts actually making a contribution to our life. Yeah, it's the unintegrated projects it all out there, and we see that what with the grand old prostitute party. Yeah, it's everyone else's fault. It's everyone. Oh no, those weren't protesters. It was Antifa dressed up as Trump protesters. Yes, it was them that did it. I mean, come on, please. Yeah, that's the level of lying that's been going to, because they can't own their shadow. Yeah, they project it outwards, even when it's nakedly obvious to everyone what was going on. This is a classic example, which of course, the great psychologists have identified as projection. It's projection. And projection is also the shadow part as well of Jupiter. Yeah, the shadow of Jupiter is that, projections and delusions and fantasies. It's also the shadow of Neptune as well, and Pluto. There's an element of that as well. What's together in Trump's chart? Jupiter and Neptune. Yeah, in his second house is speech. What does he do? He projects his shadow speech onto others, and they get kind of bamboozled by it all. Like in Jungle Book, when the snake comes to Mowgli and he's like, trust in me. Yeah, and he does the swirly things happen in the eyes. I would show a clip of it, but of course YouTube will quickly tear it down, and I'll have Disney saying that my video is not legit and stuff. But have a little flashback in one's mind. Anyone who's seen the Jungle Book, there's that famous scene. This gives Trump, because his moon is in that place of like I said, of Oh, my mind's gone blank. It's in Ifucus, which is the serpent priest. Yeah, so he's able to draw on that power. He's able to draw on shadow. This is because he's using it in a negative, and he's able to project that shadow back outwards to his audience, which receive that shadow on their kind of psychic antenna and just drink it all in. And this is why the GOP missed its opportunity to actually put some clear water between itself and Trump. Yeah, that's why they because they understood they didn't want to break that psychic break that psychic connection. And if they did, and they tried, even Mitch still voted to free Trump, but then was cussing him out. And now all of a sudden, like I said, he's changed his tone. That's why I call him Mitch McCon Man, yeah, because he's a con. Ultimately, he's been sold out and bought out. Why? Because there's shadow aspects of him and his personality and all of his other cronies that have been captured somewhere. Yeah, there is probably somewhere in the cupboard, in Putanesca's cupboard, let's put it that way, there's probably a treasure trove of dirt, yeah, on these people. And all he has to do is rattle the box of tapes and be like, you remember what you did on XYZ date? Yeah. And then suddenly what happens? People start changing their tune, yeah, because the GOP, the Grand Old Prostitute Party, certain elements of those people are compromised, yeah, and that's part of the shadow of the prostitute, which is one's integrity being compromised in some way, so one has to toe the line of something that is not in your soul's alignment. Now, this is not to kind of disparage anyone that has found themselves in that situation. We've all done prostitute moves at some point in our life, yeah, for our survival, to get by, or whatever, to hustle, to make money, or stay in a situation that provided us security, even though it may not have been comfortable. And there are just sometimes in life where it's just necessary to do a prostitute move. Where it becomes really negative is when one has the option to have a better choice, yeah, to do something for the high good, or to do something that builds one's own integrity, but then we deny it, yeah. That is the most damaging, because if you do a prostitute move because you had to survive or whatnot, can you be blamed for that? No, yeah, because we all have to survive. We've all got bills to pay. We all need to hustle in some shape or form. It's when we're in a position to make an informed choice and we choose not to in order to maintain some perceived sense of security or power, that's when we start going wrong. And Trump, the Pied Piper, because of his gift, and I say gift because remember I said he's got reptilian intelligence, yeah? Reptilian intelligence is the ability to understand and be able to manipulate fear, yeah? And articulate it in a certain way. That is his gift, yeah? And of course he's a showman as well. He's able to make evil, for lack of a better word, seductive. Yeah, because remember as well, it's also about seduction. Convincing people is also about seduction. Is a big part of it. That's why, in the Garden of Eden, blah, 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 because remember serpents are blamed for everything. It was about the seduction, yeah, because really what is the ultimate, the seduction? The seduction of power, yeah, and as Shakespeare said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So this again goes back to the shadow. When our shadow is not integrated, we are far more easily seduced by power and what we perceive it can do for us. However, when we have integrated our shadow, we can then use power for good, yeah, because the shadow is very useful. it is there. It's also a very powerful tool of manifestation as well. And this is often something that's not talked about. And I think if you would like, I'll do a special for everyone on manifestation and the role that the shadow plays in terms of being able to grant us what it is that we desire. Yeah? And I said desire. Remember I said, I didn't say good or bad. I said what we desire. So if you would like me to explore that in a video, law of attraction and certain elements with the planets and the shadow in terms of how it actually works, then I'll do that, because clearly there's more to it than just being a sweet or good person, yeah? Because there's plenty of wicked people in the world that are doing just fine. Thank you very much. Yes, we can all observe that. And there's plenty of good people that are also doing good also. So it's not, we need to get away from polarity or binary things, which are very Piscean, which is all about good and bad, black, white, dark and light. Yeah, they're very useful terms, but they don't really cover the nuances. The age of Aquarius is much more about the nuances, recognizing that the world is a combination of black and white. It's more gray and misty. It's more foggy. Yeah, it's more Neptunian than we perhaps would like to admit. It's more like Rahu and Ketu, smoky, the smoky nodes of the moon, etc. Anyway, I digress. I don't want this video to be too long, but I hope that kind of makes sense. So essentially, just to go back to old Duck L'Orange, Jupiter is here, and Jupiter cast trines. So I said 3, 7 and 9, yeah? So if we count here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 and 9, sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jupiter is making a trine to Trump's 10th house currently, yeah? 10th house, career, public name, fame, recognition. 7 places, so 5, 6, 7, yeah? Jupiter is also looking at his 12th house, which is to do, of course, with losses, but it's to do also as well with foreign lands, spirituality and stuff like that. So Trump is, Jupiter is kind of putting its kind of benefic kind of light, at least for now, on his 12th house, protecting some of his losses, but we'll see for how long. And then 7, 8, 9, Jupiter is looking at Trump's 2nd house, which is to do with money, yeah, values, but also speech. And it's aspecting itself, yeah? Jupiter's aspecting itself. So Jupiter trine Jupiter is always powerful. And it means that this Neptune is being trined as well. So there is this element. Now we know that this is the lion combination, yeah? So it means Trump is going to be able to say certain things that will enhance his spell casting power, at least for now. Yeah, and I know this is not what we want to hear, but I'm just describing the energy, because it's important to be honest about the energy, because then it makes sense why people's certain demise seems to be delayed for some reason, even though they're out and out wicked. Yeah. Because the planets, they give their energy to man and beast alike, to good people and wicked people and indifferent people, yeah? This is why it can be frustrating to see why sometimes people that are amoral and do the wrong thing, you know, seem to succeed, at least materially. But remember as well that the material of this world is not really quite the point, yeah? It's more about the content of the heart and the soul. Yeah, so really that's what our karmas are based on. What do we do with these advantages? Is Trump reaping karma? Of course he is. You know, it will come unstuck at some point. Do you know what I mean? Nothing lasts forever. And at the end of the day, you can't take your money with you. But so that will just show. So again, with this trinal aspect to Trump's 10th house, where it's, you know, looking at Rahu and the Sun and Uranus and transiting Rahu and Mars, yeah, you know, remember as well, Jupiter is a friend of Mars also. Let's not forget that. Then, of course, it's looking at his 12th house, but then, of course, it's looking at his second house of resources and money. So Trump is obviously, he has to maintain the grift, which is why he wants to make it known that he's still in the race or whatnot. It will either be him or one of his daughters or whoever. At the moment, the GOP seems to have no candidates that can face Trump at all, really. Or anyone who's got the name of Trump. I mean, we have to see what comes out in the wash. But it means that, so I think when I look at it, there's going to be either some platform will take him on and allow his voice, expansion, because Jupiter is the planet of expansion. Yeah, it's looking at the second house. Second house deals with the voice. Yeah, so Jupiter will be expanding his voice in some way. At least for now. When it goes into Aquarius, it's going to go in a different place. In fact, it's going to actually aspect his third house, which is about communication. So that, if anything, that may strengthen it further. So look out for Trump's voice being expanded in some way, maybe some kind of app or something like that. Irrespective of what people are saying and doing, there's still this energy around him, and Rahu and Mars in his 10th house is a very powerful combination, so watch out for that. But we could also see Kamala Harris as well. She could rise up a bit. I was looking at an astrologer, what is he called? Michael Keneally, very good a tropical and Vedic astrologer, and he was mentioning that he's looked at Kamala Harris's chart and sees her rising. He's not so positive about Biden though, so you know, we have to see. We have to see. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there, but I hope that explains some of this cra that's going on. Texas, of course, that situation there, man, all I can do is wish the best for the people of Texas. I hope that the virus keeps coming down, but obviously with this dropping this mandate, yeah, it's hard to see. But I hope the numbers come down in the rest of the states. We all have to pray for the highest good as well. This is the time to share spirituality, not only with yourself, but also loved ones. And so that all our vibrations can raise, so we can ultimately transcend the negativity of Duck Larange and those of his ilk. But for now, he's not done yet, so we'll have to see. If you'd like a consultation with me, my consultations for April are now open. Please get stuck in, they're filling up quickly, and of course there's May and beyond. So thanks very much, everyone, as well to all my subscribers and my clients, and you'll see me on the next one.